Today I'd like to do a video as part of my home prepping system, and this particular video is going to cover my water module. As a lot of you know, I'm doing a design of my home prepping hierarchy, and I'm leveraging a lot of the skills that I use in my job in software engineering for creating this particular project. So what I have is I have a bunch of different tiers for different items for emergency preparedness, and what I'm going to be doing for this video series is working my way out from the center tier all the way out until we get to these possible events that I'm going to be preparing for. So what I'd like to cover today is the one in the very middle, which is my water module. Water is part of my Tier 1 essential items for my home prepping system. Usually with prepping, the big three are water, food, and shelter. But since your home is your shelter, it's not really applicable to this particular pie chart. So I only have two items in this particular tier, and while they're basic in concept, they're the most important ones to have. And this particular video is going to cover level 1 of my water storage. So for me, level 1 means 72 hours worth of water, or your basic minimal amount that you want to have on hand in case of an emergency. As this diagram shows, I want to have my water storage be rotated, storage friendly, transportable, and usable. For example, I'm going to be less likely to use water out of a 55-gallon drum that's hidden away somewhere versus water that's in a plastic water bottle that's in the fridge. So this video is going to cover level 1 of my water storage. The main item for the water module is one of these water dispenser stands, and this just dispenses water using the 5-gallon water jugs that you see here. What I really like about going with this kind of approach is that it gives you more of a modular approach for storing water versus having a couple of those 55-gallon drums of water which you would store in your garage or maybe your basement and you might never use. This is something that you'd use every day for your water needs, and what I really like about it is that it works both with the power on and off, and it allows you to store a bunch of these 5-gallon water jugs at various locations which are easily transportable, and you could fill them up at any kind of grocery store or water supply store. So the water dispenser unit is a must for my water storage purposes. I like to have one case of water bottles available at all times as part of level 1 of my water module. What I like about these is that they meet almost all the requirements that I have for this particular module as far as being rotatable, transportable, storage friendly. You could have these in your refrigerator, you could use them at parties, barbecues, throw them in the car, throw them in your backpacks. So I do think it is good to have some water bottles in these little small individual sized cases. I don't like to have a whole bunch of these cases available just because I feel a little bit guilty about my carbon footprint and just having a bunch of these be recycled or possibly thrown away and then added into garbage island or something in the Pacific Ocean. But I do think it's good to have at least one case available at all times. They say that the bare minimum of water supply that you want to have available is 1 gallon per person per day in case of an emergency, and that's for drinking and for hygiene purposes. So what I have here is just a 3-day supply for one person, or a 1-day supply for 3 people. For example, myself, TheUrbanPrepper, and Baby Prepper. And as you see, these are just basic 1-gallon water jugs of water. They have a nice little handle here too, so they're transportable. And I like to have 3 of these available at all times in case of an emergency, although sometimes I do use these for other purposes besides emergencies. I have my particular scenario outlined here in this PDF document, which you could download below. This is just a draft version, by the way. I'm going to have the final version available also for download at the end of this video series. And this just kind of outlines what I'm preparing for. So I have 3 people in my household, so all of my preps for this particular scenario is going to be for 3 people. So you could change this as needed for your particular environment. So just 3 1-gallon jugs of water. Next, I like having 3 of these 3-gallon rectangular water jugs available at all times in case of an emergency for the water dispenser. They're BPA free, you don't get that plasticky taste with them, and the best thing about them is that they're rectangular in design, so they're not going to roll around on you like the 5-gallon version does. They also have a nice handle on them, and they're a little bit more lightweight compared to the 5-gallon version. For example, TheUrbanPrepper has a hard time picking these up and storing them versus this version, which is a little bit more lightweight and transportable. And the cool thing about this for me is that since I'm preparing for 3 people, it makes calculation of your water take easier. So this could be considered a 1-day supply for 3 people, or it could be a 3-day water supply for 1 person. The best thing about these 3-gallon rectangular version is that they're stackable using these little notches here. So you could stack them on top of each other and they're not going to move on you at all. So you could really tuck these away in any kind of location that you want to, versus the 5-gallon round jugs, which are a little bit harder to store because they're round and they roll around on you. So the 3-gallon version, if you could find them, they have these notches that make them stackable, which is a really cool feature. This concludes all of the water that I want to have available as part of level 1 of my home prepping system. So again, this is the bare minimum of water I want to have available at all times in case of an emergency. As the sole provider of my small little family, I would start feeling bad about myself if I had anything less than this. I'd start feeling like I was a failure as a provider. So this is, as you can see, it's a little bit more than 72 hours because who wants to do the bare minimum of something? So as you can see in this diagram, right now I'm just in the requirements and design phase of this particular project, so this is going to be subject to change. So what I'm really curious to hear from you guys is what you guys consider your bare minimum supply of water that you want to have in your home available at all times in case of an emergency. So please feel free to leave any of your comments below in the comments section. As I mentioned earlier, you could download the draft version of the PDF documents for each of these modules available in the description box below. So what I'm going to be doing for this particular series is I'm going to be including a different icon for each of the modules that's going to help easily make it identifiable to anyone that were to see it. What I did is I went on Google and I just downloaded a bunch of free icons and I printed a whole bunch of them up, and I'm going to be attaching them to the items for my home prepping system. For example, you see here I have some water, food, batteries, illumination, office, fire, first aid, prescriptions. And this isn't for me, this is for others. If they were to see one of these icons on one of these items here, they'll know, oh, that's part of the emergency preps, don't touch that particular thing. So I'm going to have all of those available for all of the modules and all of the tiers to help make it easily identifiable. Since I'm still right now in the requirements and design phase of my particular project, I'm not going to be attaching them at this point. I'll be doing that when I go more to the final implementation. I hope you enjoyed watching this video featuring level 1 of the water module for my home prepping system. Please feel free to leave any kind of comments below in the comment section, and I'll talk to you later. See ya.